It's Ethereum Saturday, and Ethereum actually showing some more interesting, maybe even more obvious signals than Bitcoin in this case. And of course, we'll be looking at traditional markets as well for the weekly closure. All of this going to be on relatively higher term timeframes, but traditional markets actually looking a lot more, well, they've been a lot more interesting for a while now, actually. Obviously, Bitcoin and most cryptos going essentially sideways for 5-6 weeks now. But there's a lot more interesting things that can then play on into cryptocurrency land that I do believe were clarified as of yesterday's closure. So other than that, I want to welcome you back to the Air Crown Crypto channel. It is a nice Saturday morning, actually. Nice and bright and sunny. And before we get into the charts, I should let you know that you can still get the Jewel Light for free for the first 30 days if you follow the directions in the link in the description below. And that's it for your free show of the day. Nice. All right, sweet. Let's just jump right into it. So first things first, I'll bring you over here to, well, we can just go over the bi-weekly chart, I guess. It is going to be closing tomorrow. And in this case, I just want to chart out the most obvious areas to start this analysis off. So what I've already done here is I've put on a nice Fibonacci retracement. In this case, it's an inverse, but ultimately the 50% retracement and the 382 fib right here are getting the current range incredibly well. In fact, we can mark this off a little bit better, putting a nice little blue box there right on the top side boundary. And then for the bottom side, very obviously right around 1700 on that 382 fib. Of course, with the way that things have been looking for, I guess since May, sorry, this would be May, June of last year, by the way, we can see that Ethereum has been putting in some pretty higher term time frame, higher lows here, and putting in what does seem to be a reaccumulation pattern coming off these lows, which yes, can get filled out a little bit more, of course, and that would be essentially the more bearish take if Ethereum does essentially trade below, especially 1700. In fact, we can come up with a number that is significantly higher than that, which we'll go over a little bit later. But if that does happen, I'd be looking for this, for this formation to kind of fill out a little bit more, something like this, and then kind of work its way upwards and onwards, getting ready for the big bad breakout. Likely, I guess that would be likely later this year, in fact, maybe Q4, like deep into Q4 there. Anyways, until then, I do want to go over a few things first here on the daily, as there are a few interesting setups actually. First and foremost, we do see that the daily RSI is showing some hidden bullish divergence come off this potential last low right here. That would imply that in short term, probably does try another upside move. However, very, very clear invalidation below 1845 or 1846, especially on a closing basis. Daily Jewel continues with this upside momentum here as well over the last couple of days, although there really hasn't been any momentum in either direction here. But when we go to the weekly, I think that things become a little bit more interesting, perhaps. Again, we did identify this drive of hidden bullish divergence come off the prior weekly low. That was back in middle of June, actually. But now we do see that there is a silver cross in this case to the upside. So the yellow 21 is trading above the green 55, and price action as of right now is actually above all major moving averages. Even the lowest period, the 9 right here as well. So again, still got a day left, or a little bit more than a day left until weekly expiration, and assuming that things essentially close basically here or higher, that would still be putting the ball in favor of the Boulah's court, alongside what we just saw on the daily. On top of that, if we go ahead and look at volatility, we can see that yes, it has contracted to some of the lowest lows it's ever seen ever throughout the full history of Ethereum, actually, and it's looking like it's getting ready for an actual expansion phase here. In this case, I have seen this work in the past, although I don't know how much I trust it. But we can draw regressions from like volatility spikes essentially, and in this case, we can see that it's actually been rejected 3 times here right along this area. So I would be kind of looking at this area as indicative of the next major massive breakout for a nice volatility explosion, which, yeah, that would imply that this can still take a little bit of time, actually. So it wouldn't be super surprising to see Ethereum continue to trade in this sideways fashion, maybe into middle, maybe even the end of August, actually. Definitely possible right there. Anyways, moving on to the next thing, I did want to get into the HPDR ranges. Before we get into that, I should just blindly say that basically, as long as Ethereum is above, especially the 21 exponential moving average right here, or especially all major moving averages, but even the 21 at 18, let's call it 1810, 1812 region, essentially be getting the current low of this week. Still going to be favoring the upside, I guess, just from a moving average perspective. Here's the thing, though. Whenever I do see a moving average cross in either direction after being positioned in the other way, the opposite direction, for a long time, so in this case, I'll be referring to the start of the downwards crossover here to the potential beginning of an upwards crossover here, A lot of the time, the first one does fail, actually. We're not going to have examples on Ethereum, unfortunately, just because it doesn't really have as much price action history. But if we were to go over, other assets with, 20, 30, 50 years of history, you'd see that interplay fairly often. But hey, that just offers up a nice, very obvious balancing point. Basically, it's probably going to move up to like 1820 actually in this next coming week, meaning that if Ethereum starts to close below there, yeah, next area of interest like 1700 probably tries for a bounce. Probably fails that one as well. It maybe comes down to these lower bounds over here. But for right now, still above, so have to respect that, or at least in the way they look at things. Going over here into the 4-hour time frame for HPGR ranges, what do you know? The bottom side of the current range coming in where? 1820. So that'd probably be good enough for me to get pretty damn bearish on this one. Don't necessarily need to wait for the weekly to come back down below that prior higher low at 1700, although I would be expecting a bounce around there, but very likely to fail as well. By the same token, the average of the range coming in right around 1887, 1886 region. Popping back above there, kind of similar to Bitcoin back above 29,500 yesterday on a 4-hour closing basis. Obviously, that one got rejected a few times in the past couple of days, so it got pretty damn close. But of course, that's why closures, in my opinion, they're just better standardized in this case. But I suspect that if Ethereum can retake its the average of its range, probably Bitcoin does as well, and then you will see that hidden bullish divergence on the daily play out, probably getting a nice move back above, well above 1900, probably somewhere to like 1920 to 1930-ish region, maybe even more as well. So that's kind of the range for the short term. What I think is also very interesting here is if we go over to stochastic momentum and start off with the weekly is actually crossing back up to the upside. I think it actually officially happened last week, but will continue this week, assuming that Ethereum does close tomorrow above 1800. Basically 1801 if you want to be super exact, and a quarter, by the way. Also maybe even playing out a nice trendline regression from these last few lows right here. I guess I already have it in there, and popping itself back into the bullish control zone if that does happen simultaneously. So you'd see a lot of a lot of the momentum also to start to turn back up in favor of the upside after kind of coalescing at this major region, basically like the mid 18s, and that would look decent for the Ethereums out there, for the Buterols. 2-day time frame is actually going to still be seeing momentum go to the downside as long as Ethereum is below 1913. But similar to Bitcoin, it's like the longer that it continues down here, without price action really going down, I mean, that's going to be considered a bullish reset. Still has a way to go, though, to be fair. At least another week, I'd say. Another few closures at least. But as you can see, that number at 1913 actually not even super far away from current price action anyways, so start to see a few more of those pivots come in. Daily time frame is already popping up above 1845 is a current pivot. 12-hour time frame is going to be also headed to the upside above 1855, where it's still trading above by about $20. 6-hour time frame going to be freshly crossing up above 1869. 4-hour time frame is going to be also up above 1865, and hourly is going to be freshly up above 1871. So very interesting right there. I mean, maybe we see some fireworks into the end of this weekly closure here. Speaking of fireworks, I did want to go over to traditional markets, keeping in mind that there is a pretty strong correlation between, especially like the tech sector represented by mostly NQ. Financials are included there as well. But between that and cryptocurrency and namely Bitcoin, but Ethereum as well. In this case, the weekly closing pretty damn strong, very strong, I'd actually add. In fact, this does make me think that there's probably one more push to the upside. Our $16,000 target was hit, something like this. I think I'm going to be wrong on the LARP lines here. This is not looking like a rejection to me right now. Looking at the monthly with just one more day in the trading month to go, this is pretty fucking crazy, but it might very easily gun for a new high somewhere around like 16,200, maybe even 16,300. That is fucking, it's fucking crazy. The problem is that, I do think that traditional markets are going to be, playing out a pretty decent pullback relatively soon. And when it does happen, it probably happens pretty damn fast. But this is not the behavior of a pullback, obviously. Another drive of hidden bullish divergence off this last low right here, actually, with volatility increasing. I mean, I'm probably going to be looking for it to go for one more high. Just looking across all different time frames here. I mean, sideways and up to close out the month here. So really, this is quite literally the definition of climbing the wall of worry. Yeah, it's so crazy. I mean, it's pretty easy, at least for us on this channel, to be very bullish. Coming off these lows over here. Same thing with Bitcoin, coming off of like, what was it? I did not call the low like specifically in November, but in December. And same thing for this over here. But man, this is very aggressive now, like very fucking aggressive. So fair enough. Have to respect it, I suppose. Same thing with SPY as well. Actually, making new highs for this year and closing on a new weekly high as well. Pretty damn powerful on the daily, as you can see. I'm not really seeing anything else that's super interesting here. Just the monthly, again, with just one more trading day left to go. How much higher can it go? Maybe like 46.50. It's pretty fucking close there already, right? But again, very, very strong Friday closure after a pretty nasty Thursday downside move. Like no continuation at all. Didn't even trade below the low in that case. So, I have to be saying the same thing. This one's very aggressive. It's very fucking aggressive, and yes, at some point there will be a correction, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's like if it's relatively soon, when it does happen, it's going to be fucking fast. But for right now, probably one more push to the upside, and then play it by ear yet again. So what does that what does that mean for Bitcoin, cryptos, Ethereum? Perhaps they get to enjoy in that as well. They haven't really been enjoying in any of these rallies for the past few weeks, but at some point, I do expect these trends to once again recorrelate as we typically do see over time. So I think that's a good place for me to be leaving off on this particular video. As always, wish you the best. It has been a nice pleasure on this Saturday morning. And with that said, take care, much love, and see you hopefully Sunday.